Ryan Gosling is one of the most talked about actors in the world right now, and the primary reason for this is the seemingly inexplicable amount of young men who swear up and down that Ryan is the only person in Hollywood who really understands them. I'm sure you've seen the memes. Hell, even I was tempted to start this video by telling you all that today we'd be talking about me because there's something about Gosling that Gen Z really relates to. But what exactly that is completely unknown. So today we're going to analyze his roles, public presence, and what performances people are the most drawn to, all in an attempt to figure out, once and for all, why is Ryan Gosling literally me? To properly analyze this trend, we must first understand the demographic in which it is the most prominent, that being Gen Z men. According to Forbes, roughly 73% of our generation report feelings of chronic loneliness. Upon further research, you'll find that the vast majority of these individuals are men. It's a widely known issue, commonly referred to as the male loneliness epidemic. Now, while a certain group of people on YouTube will try to tell you that this is a result of manipulation by villainous women and the LGBT community, that's just simply not the case. Sorry to all you fit and fresh fans out there, but the crippling loneliness that you're searching for answers about isn't caused by women, you're just an incel. But I digress. Experts say that this epidemic is due in large parts to things such as quarantine, a failing economy, and an overall lack of people. Our generation is several million smaller than even one of the oldest demographics of people still living. Another study conducted even before the pandemic shows that well over half of Gen Z men are single. That's against around 30% of single women in the same generation. Now, all of this has culminated into the highest spike in depression that any generation has ever seen. Suicide rates are increasing by up to 4 or 5% annually, eating and panic disorders are on the rise, and people are staying inside now more than ever before. CBS reports that 2/3 of Americans now reportedly spend more time inside than they ever did prior to the pandemic. But I can already hear you asking, what does any of this have to do with Ryan Gosling in Hollywood? Well, the way that people feel in the modern age directly ties in with the media that they find the most relatable. When asked by Watch Mojo, the millennial generation said that the characters they related to the most were people such as Corey Matthews or Rachel Green. However, when Screen Rant asked the same thing of Gen Z, their answers were much different. BoJack Horseman was one that came up a lot, a character known for his self-loathing, isolated, and destructive nature.
I'm really sorry, BoJack.
I don't know how to be, Diane. Doesn't get better and it doesn't get easier. I can't keep lying to myself, saying I'm gonna change. I'm poison.
BoJack.
I come from poison. I have poison inside me, and I destroy everything I touch. That's my legacy. I have nothing to show for the life that I've lived, and I have nobody in my life who's better off for having known me.
That isn't true.
Isn't it, though?
However, the most common answer was Rue Bennett from Euphoria, a character with severe substance abuse and mental health issues. When looking at data like this, it's easy to see why Ryan is so popular among this generation who just wants so badly to be seen and to feel like they're not alone. On November 12, 1980, Ryan Gosling was born to Thomas and Donna Gosling in London, Ontario. His parents split shortly after his birth, and he and his sister were brought up almost entirely by his mother. Now, Ryan was known to act out in school, eventually even getting suspended and homeschooled.
Okay, so like when I was a kid, I saw Rambo First Blood. You know?
Rambo First Blood.
And then after the movie put a spell on me, and I thought I was Rambo, and I even thought my face felt like Sylvester Stallone's. And then I put a bunch of a bunch of steak knives in my Fisher-Price Houdini kit. I took it to school the next day and I threw them at all the kids at recess.
Wow.
And I got suspended and I didn't hit anybody.
Right. Yeah.
So and I'm sorry.
However, when he was 12, Ryan would land a job alongside Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears as a member of the Mickey Mouse Club. This was his big break, and a point in his life where he'd make very valuable connections. For example, Justin Timberlake's mom was actually Ryan's legal guardian for a time after his mother had to return to Canada, forging a long-lasting bond with another juggernaut in the entertainment industry. As Ryan got older, he starred in a few more kids' shows, but ultimately would divert from that path as he got into his adult years, taking more and more mature roles. The first of these would be as a goofy country music-loving football player in Remember the Titans. This film was what really kick-started his career in terms of acting in major motion pictures. From here, he'd land leading roles in The Notebook, Stay, Lars and the Real Girl, Drive, Crazy Stupid Love, La La Land, Blade Runner, and most recently, Barbie. Of course, there's a long list of films other than these ones that he performed excellently in. Gosling is one of the few actors who seemingly has no misses. However, every role he took after he became well established basically fit into one of two distinct archetypes. The first of these types consists of characters who are over the top and self-assured. They seemingly have the perfect attitude on the exterior, but you can tell that there's something much deeper going on beneath the surface. The second type is the chronically lonely Ryan Gosling. These characters are stoic, serious, and hardly ever speak. The biggest example of this comes in Only God Forgives, where, despite being the lead, Gosling has only 19 lines. It's important to note that both of these types are typically suffering from some sort of mental health issue. I'm sure you can see what I'm getting at here. You take a generation of people in which loneliness and depression are seen as a rampant epidemic, and you combine that with the consistency of a star's roles depicting deep loner characters, and you come out with a huge number of people who empathize with that feeling. We are finally getting more grounded depictions of mental health in cinema, and Ryan is consistently starring in some of the best examples, not only for men, but women too. Young people can easily fit into the characters that he depicts, thanks either to the few lines of dialogue, making the performance much more subjective, or thanks to the oversharing of the first type. That one really hits the nail on the head in terms of what it's attempting to get across.
Don't look at me!
But at the end of the day, the question must be asked, is this good for society? A lot of people see relating to heavily broken characters as a big red flag, however, I'd have to disagree. We live in an era in which a ton of bad actors are attempting to constantly feed off of this impressionable and deeply hurt generation. They sell online courses for the cure to loneliness, point the blame towards women on their podcasts, and ultimately attempt to take advantage of those who are confused and sad. Gosling, both as a man and in the roles that he chooses, does something much different. He simply makes young people feel understood. In many of his movies, there isn't a simple cure or multi-step plan that you can follow to ensure happiness. They just show you that you're not alone, and one day it really will get better. Do you ever notice how all of these big influencers who talk about escaping the Matrix or whatever swore up and down for so long that Ryan was a Sigma male, but then denounced him as soon as Barbie released? I think that's incredibly telling. Ken, the character he plays in that film, is a hyperbolic version of someone who is easily influenced and lets his self-loathing turn into a net negative action against those that he wants to impress the most. You could view his character arc as he learns about and establishes the patriarchy in Barbie Land as an allusion to people who allow this harmful ideology peddled by Sigma male podcasts to shape their entire life and perspective. Obviously, Ken is, in this part of the film, the antagonist. Barbie shows exactly why that way of thinking is harmful, and as a result, Gosling lost a lot of his supporters who were on that side of the internet. It scared those type of influencers because here's a guy who not only showed everything that's wrong with the mentality that they're pushing, but also resolved his arc in the film with the most important message of all. These podcasts prey off of the feelings that young men have of inadequacy. They want you to think that you won't be enough unless you buy their digital courses or continue to listen to their sage advice online. But at the end of Barbie, Ken learned something very valuable. Something that seemed like a joke to many, but really is not only an excellent culmination of his character arc, but also a heartfelt message to all of his fans who feel abandoned. That message being, of course, that they are Kenough. If you ask me, I think that Ryan Gosling is an excellent role model who couldn't have come at a better time. I look up to him, and I know that plenty of you watching do too. He's an inspiration to all of us, and a reminder that no matter how much life beats us down, we'll still always be Kenough. Thank you all so much for watching. Now, I know a lot of you tend to click off my videos at this point, but if I could have your attention for just a little longer, I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying really hard to grow this channel, and if you enjoyed the video, it would mean the most for you to take just a bit more time to show me some support. You can do that by liking the video, subscribing, or if you feel so inclined, it's just gonna ask you a quick question right there. That's right, I finally have partial monetization, so if you're feeling extra generous, you can leave a super thanks tip in the comments below, or maybe even become a channel member. Isn't it all required, but it is the best way for you to show your support to me, and it would mean the most. Thanks again for listening through to the end, and please remember, believe to achieve.